Welcome to the Chuck Shoot Podcast. Rob Blasko Nicholson is my guest today. 36 years in the music business for this guy. He's probably most well known for being the bass player for Rob Zombie and Ozzy Osbourne, though. Pretty good gigs. Although he's played in some other metal bands, he also has a management company that signed the band Black Veil Brides, among others. He refers to himself as a hired gun. But he comes off as a really super down-to-earth guy who's just grateful to be part of two of the biggest heavy metal icons that there ever was. And obviously he knows a lot about heavy metal in the music business. It was really awesome talking to him about all this stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy it too, and you might even learn something. Hi, how you doing?
What's happening?
Not much. You sound pretty good. You sound pretty crystal clear. Are you just on an iPhone, or you got to run through a studio line or something?
No, iPhone.
Okay, sounds good. You have like amazing career, 30 plus years in the music business. I think you actually know one of my previous guests. I had Rudy Sarzo on. I'm told he's a good friend of yours. And did you actually live 2 houses down from him at one point?
Yeah, for like 10 years.
Oh, wow. So, yeah. Was that on coincidence? Is that a coincidence or was that on purpose?
No, it was coincidence, but it was funny, right? Because it's like, I got to think of the neighbors just going like, oh, there goes the neighborhood, 2 Ozzy Osbourne bass players in very close proximity. But,
right.
It's like both of us are like the super most mellow dudes ever. So,
okay, nice. So, but yeah, so anyways, going back to your, the beginning of your whole life where it all started, there's actually nobody in your family bloodline is a musician, but the first thing that connected you to music was Kiss Destroyer, right? Because you thought they looked like superheroes when you were a little kid.
Yep.
And then you saw the Creatures of the Night tour, which this is insane. I didn't even know this was a tour. It was Creatures of the Night Kiss with Motley Crue during their Too Fast for Love opening.
Yeah, pretty radical. Now, the interesting part is my good friend Andy. He's a fucking Kiss maniac and knows everything about it. Now, as a kid, growing up with Kiss and being that your most favorite band and seeing them on TV when you could, and listening to their records, or there was seeing them in magazines, right? Like it was like you just kind of imagine what it was. Like I was really young when I went to that tour, and grade school, and there was no understanding arena rock. Right. Like there was nothing to compare it to. And so in hindsight, Andy goes like, dude, you realize like during that tour, like they were hurting, like, and then I didn't, obviously I didn't even think about it at the time because it was like, I thought it was the greatest moment of my entire life. And, but in hindsight now looking at it going like, wow, they played the Universal Amphitheater, which was a capacity of 6,000 people, right? So you think of Kiss being a band that would play the Forum, right, which is like 12,000 people, and LA probably being one of their biggest markets besides probably like New York, and Japan or whatever. But like it was true. Like when you look back at the the factual history of information. That was a low point, for them. But whatever, man, I saw Kiss with their makeup on and, they blew fire and spit blood and the drum riser was a tank and Motley Crue opened up. And I, like I said, I was in grade school, man. It was like, that was the coolest moment of that, part of my life. That's for sure.
Did you even know Motley Crue at that point, or like, oh, there's some unknown band, or were you aware?
I did.
Oh, you did.
I did have that record.
That's cool. Yeah. So, I mean, your influences, it's like a lot of the people that I've interviewed, AC/DC, Priest, Maiden, Kiss, Crue, Motorhead, all that Corrosion of Conformity later. But it sounds like your parents were supportive of your musical dreams. They paid for your bass and I guess drum lessons. You tried the drums first, but then you switched to bass.
Yeah, I mean, that's just logically beating on stuff when you're a kid seems like the right thing to do. So, but yeah, they were, they were definitely supportive. I mean, I think it's one thing, a kid going like, I want to learn drums, or I want to, it's like, it's one thing. But I think, further down the road, whenever I actually get in a band and I actually put out a record and I actually go on tour, but I go on tour before there is cell phones, right? Before there is, before there is the internet, right? And before there is, like, the connection to home was dropping a couple of quarters in a payphone. You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't get a hold of me on tour. Like, where were they calling? We slept on people's floors and, played, dinky ass clubs. So, so I think that's a real level of support to let your teenage kid that hasn't even graduated high school yet to get in a van with his friends, his bandmates, and tour the country in a van that they rented and disconnected the odometer so that they, so that they wouldn't get charged the mileage when they returned it.
No, and didn't you kind of have a little bit of blackmail on your parents too? Because even though your stepdad was a banker and they were in some sort of escrow business, they also grew weed and sold weed on the side. So they couldn't really be like, hey, you can't be in a rock band. You're like, you guys grow weed. So
yeah, totally. That is true.
Did you ever take some of that weed and smoke it, or were you forbidden from? Oh, did they let you do it, or?
Oh, they didn't know. That's the hilarious part of it. They didn't know that I smoked weed, right? That was the hilarious part of it.
Even though you're in a metal band, they didn't think that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
naive.
Maybe they just pretended. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
Yeah. So
but yeah, of course I stole from them. Of course.
You're a kid. Yeah. Kids make mistakes. So walk me through this though. So you switched to bass. You're maybe playing. Did you play in a couple other bands before you joined Cryptic Slaughter? Because how does that work? I mean, you're 15 years old and you get a record deal and you're on tour. I mean, how does that whole process work with being 15 and being underage? Like, do your parents have to sign off on you being able to go on tour and stuff, or did they have to sign the record contract, or no?
No. I mean, it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe simpler times.
I guess so.
Trust, having a core family value of trust and communication, right? Maybe that has a lot to do with it. But I mean, me and the Cryptic Slaughter band, all of our families were relatively similar in that way. We kind of all had a very strong family base. Scott, the drummer, we rehearsed in his garage for years, and his family supported that. They didn't park their cars in the garage, we set up shop in there and jammed away, and cops, show up from time to time. And, but it was like I said, man, I think it might have just been easy to kind of gloss over as just simpler times. But yeah, no, we had a demo tape and sent it in, and Metal Blade sent us a contract, and we signed it. Maybe Bill's dad looked at it. I don't remember. We definitely didn't have an attorney look at it.
No.
Or anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, we'd make records and go into the studio with Bill Matoyer and make records and put them out, and we'd do shows and tour when we could, and yeah, it was fun times, for sure. I mean, there was definitely no other way I would have liked to have gone through my high school years.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine. I grew up such a metal fan. I mean, I was never good enough to like be in a band or get signed. I can't imagine. Were you able to go on tour with some of the other bands that you had looked up to that you were a fan of?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we either toured with friends or the people that became friends, or who we did shows with or toured with, and and then obviously fast forward a few years.
Yeah.
And that's all a completely different scenario there.
But so while you were in Cryptic Slaughter, is this true that so this would have been around 87. So you're about 3 years into the band. Cliff Burton, Metallica, obviously we know the story there. He died, but because you were known at Metal Blade Records, Lars called Metal Blade Records and asked for some options, and they threw your name out there. But they said, but I guess you had just cut your hair, so you thought you couldn't be in Metallica because you had short hair. Is that true?
That is a true story.
So you didn't even try to push for yourself to audition or anything, though?
No, and I wouldn't have been good enough either, to be totally fair. But I was no and am no Cliff Burton. But yeah, that is a funny story. That actually did happen.
Wow, that's got to still be either way. That's a super compliment that your name was being considered among those guys.
Well, among Metal Blade, right?
Yeah.
Like not amongst Metallica.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
well, still, the Metal Blade thought highly enough of you to throw your name out there. Yeah.
For sure, of course.
So you're in that band, then you're in some other bands, but you're also having to work. You worked retail, and you worked in bars during this time. And this went on for quite a while, right? You were in a band called, what did you do I didn't figure this out. There's like a gap between Cryptic Slaughter, because they ended in 88, and then you joined the band Drown in 93. What went on from 88 to 93? Were you in some other bands at that time?
Well, in that time period was the period of the 90s, whenever you're playing clubs with your band trying to get signed.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of developmental stuff. There was a label that put us in the studio a few times and was really trying to develop us and get us to a point to where we were signable. And that situation never materialized. But then at the end of it, here comes Michael Alago. And if you want to know more about Michael Alago, you can watch his documentary on Netflix, or read his book. But, he signed Metallica. He signed White Zombie, and he came around and he thought what we were doing had some type of energy that he really resonated with, and he signed it, to Elektra Records, and so in the interim, it was a matter of finding a group of guys to be in a band with, and then putting that thing together, and then, in hindsight, I guess, it was a bit of a process, and, kind of finding our own thing. And then, like I said, and then at the end of the day, we finally get it, right? We finally get that deal and make that record and get that manager and put it out, and nothing really happened. So
it's
that
frustrating.
was the end of that.
Yeah. So
but that was very typical in the 90s. Like that happened a lot, for every Tool and Rage Against the Machine, there was another 100 of us that, didn't have that same story.
Right. Well, and you had a deal in that band Suffer, that you guys had a deal with the Walt Disney Music Company. So, and then that one just fizzled out as well.
Yeah. That was very short-lived.
Okay. So that was a short-lived one. Then there was a band that you were in called Killing Spree. I found this interesting. You contributed lead vocals. Was that for the whole album or just some of the songs?
No, the whole album. Yeah, that was even shorter-lived. Okay. Yeah, that was even shorter-lived. I don't even remember who put that thing out, but yeah.
I think it was Napalm Records, right?
Ooh, was it? Maybe it was. That's interesting, because I just talked to them this morning.
Wow.
I don't even know that they know that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it had the future body count bassist, Vincent Dennis, or AKA Vincent Price.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. That's what I'm reading on the internet. There's all sorts of stuff I can find out.
It's foggy. Yeah.
And then at one point you were in Prong, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of where things made a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of the beginning of the next 20 years of my life, more or less. And that kind of did happen because Drown happened. And even though Drown in and of itself was, a successful failure, what it did do is it did put me in the crosshairs of influential people, like the management that we had.
Yeah.
It was Walter O'Brien and Andy Gould, and they collectively managed Pantera and White Zombie and Prong, and The Obsessed. And so whenever Prong is looking for a bass player, they're like, oh, we know this dude that we managed for 5 minutes. He was cool. He lives in LA. And then when Rob Zombie's looking for a bass player, same kind of thing. There's this dude that we knew, and he was in Prong and Drown and whatever, and stuff. So the Drown thing really had the association with the management is what then put me in the line for these other gigs that just kind of kept going up and up.
Right.
And so that was, I think the takeaway from that is like, man, you never know who your most reliable asset is. So just be cool to everybody.
Good advice. Good advice. And then you were in, before the Rob Zombie thing, which we'll get to that, you were in Danzig for a short little while with also the drummer who went on to be the drummer of the Queens of the Stone Age, Joey C, and then Dave Kushner, who was the guitar player from Velvet Revolver. So that's kind of like an all-star band. And then obviously Glenn Danzig. What's it like working with Glenn Danzig? What's he like behind the curtain? I don't even think I've seen interviews with him before. I mean, he was the singer in Misfits. He's kind of a legend.
Oh, he's certainly a legend, and legendary. But yeah, I mean, like once again, man, that was a short-lived thing. To even say I was in the band is kind of maybe stretching the truth a little bit. I mean,
it was a few months, right?
I mean, I was in the band, but the band did one show. Like, so my contribution to Danzig is, an hour and 10-minute set at the Whiskey on Halloween one year, right? So it's like, I think maybe there's 2 photos that exist that prove that I was even in the same room as those dudes. So it was kind of too short-lived, but I think maybe it served the purpose is that it was the stepping stone to get into Rob's band.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good resume builder for sure. So take me through this. So let's get to this is the big call. So you had actually met Rob before because Drowned had opened for White Zombie or Rob Zombie. No, I guess it would have been White Zombie, right? So
White Zombie, yeah. So once again, connecting the dots with that management connection.
So does he give you a call personally, or was it his manager, or who calls you up?
Ooh, good question. I don't remember, honestly, but
really, I thought that would be like one of the crowning moments that you'd never forget. Like, I would be so excited if I got that. I mean, because you'd have to audition though first, right? I mean, I'm assuming that's the first call.
No, that's the hilarious part of all of this is like, I think it was maybe him, but through Andy, the manager. But I'm pretty sure Andy was the one that reached out. It was just like, hey, Rob wants to meet you, and so we met up at a diner, and he was like, yeah, he really just kind of wanted to make sure that I was down with the program, right? That that he was the visionary, and I was down with his vision, and I wasn't going to get in the way of anything that he wanted to do, and that I was just a team player, and that is exactly what I was.
So was he a fan of Drown, or why did he choose you? I mean, you had met him once, but I mean, he liked the way you played, or other people had said, oh yeah, he'd be good, or.
I don't know. Maybe I think it's just kind of like he knew that I had played in Prong. He had seen me play with Drown. I was in Danzig, so maybe there was some small level of credibility there. But the fact of the matter is that I had done European festivals with Prong, and I had worked with cool people on Drown, and Danzig is Danzig, and whatnot. So it's like it's kind of like he knows that I can pick up the instrument and play it, and he knows that I've played in front of people and I've been on a tour bus before, and whatever, right? Like it was like
you have a good reputation in the business, basically, is what you're saying. You're reliable.
My resume was intact. Yeah. Right. And my references were credible.
That's the same thing that Rudy Sarzo said when I had him on. He was saying that was one of the most important things in his career, how he kept getting all these good gigs, was not only could he play the bass, but he was trustworthy. If you hired Rudy, you knew he was going to show up to the gig. He was going to be, on time and all that stuff. So it sounds like same thing for you.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly right. Yeah. Our careers are very much aligned in that way. And we can kind of very pinpoint the reasons for that is exactly what he said. Yeah, so I met up with him at a diner, and he was like, Are you into this? And I was like, yeah, man, totally. And he's like, okay, cool. Let's go up to the studio. And so we got in a car and drove up to the studio where he was making his first record, Hellbilly Deluxe. And he's like, yeah, we got the song we're working on, which was Dragula. And they just kind of threw a bass on me. And, I kind of plodded along and that was that. And then
did you not,
we went on tour.
You didn't record the song for the Howard Stern soundtrack that I think that ended up being his soundtrack, The Great American Nightmare. Is that not you on that song?
No. I really didn't play much on those records. Once again, it's kind of like, it was his vision.
Mm-hmm.
The producer was there to implement the vision. And, from time to time I'd get a call and I'd show up and I'd, put my fucking fingerprint wherever I could. And, look, man, it was great times. And I was there when they needed me. And, I think it was pretty much that simple.
Yeah, but it ended up being a long time. I think the expectation, they told you don't get too comfortable because he's just doing this solo thing. It's kind of a one-off thing. And then he's going to go back to White Zombie. But you ended up being in that band for like 8 years or something, right? 8 years.
Yeah. I mean, that was very much the thing of like, I think that, the people sort of in the higher up the food chain were very much kind of thinking this was going to be a thing that wasn't going to last very long. And White Zombie was the thing that was the machine that, made the money.
Yeah.
And that this would be a little side endeavor and that he would be going back to White Zombie in a short amount of time, after this record came out. But that's just not what happened.
Right.
The record came out, it exploded. He broke up the band, and here he is, Rob Zombie, formerly of White Zombie, 20 years later.
Yeah.
So,
did you think at the time when you were making this, like the Hellbilly Deluxe album, there's just some classic songs like Dragula and Living Dead Girl. Did you think at the time when you heard this, you're like, holy shit, this thing's going to blow up, or you're just like, had no idea? Cause you probably like a lot of stuff, like you said, that didn't, never took off or whatever.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know that I've kind of given that a lot of thought just because I was just kind of just stoked to be going along for the ride.
Right.
For however long it lasted, it was going to probably be the peak of my career, is kind of really what I was thinking at the time. And I don't know if I was thinking in terms of, yes, obviously the songs were great and it felt great and the timing felt great. But I don't know if I really kind of thought that blowing up was an option and honestly, when it was happening, I don't even know that if I thought about it, like maybe I wasn't surprised. Maybe I just kind of inherently knew that it was going to be successful. And like, if I'm trying to put myself in that frame of mind at the time, I kind of think that's what I would have been thinking.
Yeah.
I would have been thinking like, I don't think he's going back to White Zombie. Like, I think this is going to be successful. I think that he doesn't need them. I think this is how it's going to end up. I think that's probably what I was thinking.
And are you thinking at this point, like, you finally made it? Because there was like 14 years in the music business at that point. You feel like at that point you kind of earned it, or, was there ever a time in the 14 years before that you had kind of felt like maybe giving up and trying something different, or opening up a music club or doing something else in the business?
Very rarely. There was definitely times when I was kind of going like, man, what am I going to do with my life? But I always kind of stayed the course.
Mm-hmm.
I always kept playing music and always was trying different things, and always just, kind of trying to put myself out there. A lot of, I attribute a lot of my success to my geographical location of Los Angeles. In that all these situations really kind of happened in my backyard. And had I not been there, I'm not so sure that I would have been a consideration.
Wow.
So yeah, so
that's a good point. Yeah.
You know, I was there. You know, I mean, it's like if you think of, you know, the intersection of where preparedness meets opportunity. That was me at those moments in time.
Right. So it was twofold then. It wasn't just location. You had to be prepared and ready to go. I mean, and you, like you said, you were reliable, you had good references, they had all those other things, but you're saying that there's probably a lot of people that have those things that you have, but maybe they live in Nebraska, so they might not get the same opportunities.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Especially at that time, you know, I mean, that was, you know, we're talking pre-Instagram, pre-YouTube, like how did you even know or get connected or to someone that wasn't in sort of arm's reach proximity?
Yeah, definitely. So you're in Rob Zombie's band for 8 years. At this point, do you become friends with Rob Zombie during this time? Because I got to say, this is on my bucket list, as crazy as it sounds. I want to have a movie night with Rob Zombie. Did you ever get a chance to do that? I feel like he would just be able to like show me a lot of like really cool underground indie horror films. Do you ever do that, or do you any other like fun things with Rob Zombie?
Yeah, I mean, we're still, you know, friendly to this day. I run into him. We when he lives in LA, our houses are in a sort of general same area. And we run into each other from time to time at a restaurant that we both go to. And so that tends to be our area of catch up.
You don't want to say the name of the restaurant?
No. But yeah, I mean, we were on a tour bus together for, you know, months on end. And yeah, I mean, of course he ends up, you know, putting on a movie or, you know, something. But I think for the most part, the thing that I kind of took away from him is just understanding the mind of a complete visionary. And also too, understanding someone that understands their career and is dedicated to their career and moving their career forward. You know, I haven't met a lot of dudes like that, you know, just because you're in a band and you write some songs and you put out some records, it's not the same thing, right? Like, he's very instrumental in everything that he does from beginning to end. I mean, you know what I mean? If you consider that he writes the songs, he does the artwork, he writes the lyrics, you know, he designs the stage setup, right? If you talk about his movies, he writes it, he directs it, he edits it, right? He's a hands-on dude with every aspect of his career, and I admire that, you know, because I don't see that very often. And you also got to take into consideration that what he's done as an artist, at no point did he sell out into the mainstream, meaning that he never compromised his vision and his values as to what he wanted his art to represent into the world, right?
Now, no, he's never making kids movies or anything.
Did his albums and movies eventually get mainstream success? Yes, but on his own terms.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really cool. He also,
you know?
He just seems like one of the smartest people. Like, I've seen him on the Headbangers Ball and stuff back in the day when I was a kid, and I was like, this guy's like really, really smart. Did you have a lot of like deep, intelligent conversations with him?
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I said, I gotta attribute a lot of my future successes is just maybe even more of observation of him in action, right? As opposed to just like, hey man, what did you do when this happened? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I think my knowledge was more like
you learn by watching.
I absorbed it more by sort of observation than direct communication over the years. Because at the time, I don't think that I knew what I was looking for, right? Whereas if I know what I know now, and I could put myself in that position, if I could go back in time and put myself in that position, I certainly would have asked different things. I would have inserted myself in different situations. I probably would have been able to extract more information out of the situation. And I don't know, but like it was a very valuable time in my life that certainly contributed to the following years to come.
Oh, for sure. So then that band kind of dissolved for a little bit, right? Because he went on to go make movies.
Yep.
And then is this around the time you joined in Helmet, another great band?
Yeah, they're once again another sort of kind of footnote on my career that there's really no visual proof of contribution to that project whatsoever. Yeah. But I would say that I was in a rehearsal room with Page Hamilton on more than one occasion.
Okay.
And that was very exciting. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing, so yeah, Page and Helmet are highly influential on my, on my life or whatever, but I didn't bring anything to that table.
Gotcha. Because the reason that you ended up quitting Helmet is because you got another phone call, and this one was to join Ozzy Osbourne's band. So take me through that process. Do you remember that phone call? Was that? I mean, I'm assuming that could have been. Would that have been Sharon calling you, or? Yeah,
or someone from the office. But it was sort of very black and white of like, we got this tour coming up. We don't have a bass player. Could you fill in? Yeah, I'm not doing anything else. And so I got the gig, but then it turns out that there was no gig. So that just kind of, evaporated until a few years later.
Right. Cause he had an accident or something. And then when he did get better, he ended up being in Black Sabbath. So they did that for a while, but then I think did Rob Zombie get his band back together and you came back to that one? Yeah. So then for a while you were kind of doing both, right?
For a short while, I was kind of straddling the line. I was making an album with Rob, and I was doing these little kind of fly-in like weekenders, whereas like Ozzy's like, Ozzy's doing this award show, and you need to play one song, and there was like a lot of those for some reason, and so I was just doing these like little kind of one-off fly-in one song things, and that was cool, and then that eventually became a real thing. But I was on tour with Rob at the time, but then I was like, hey, like I got this gig and it's an opportunity for me, and I'm not going to leave you high and dry. And I was like, I'm going to put someone in my place, and I don't think anyone will know that I'm gone. And I called my friend Matt and I go, you should fly out here. I'm going to show you all the songs, and I'm going to give you my bass, and you're going to join the band, and no one will know. No one will know I'm gone, and no one did know I'm gone, because the tour that one of the very first tours that happened after that was an Ozzy Osbourne Rob Zombie tour, and a lot of my friends were like, "Dude, it's so crazy! You're playing in two bands!" And like after seeing the show, and I was like, "Yeah, no."
So they even made the guy. Did they make him look like you then, or?
No. But it was just like it was like we both just kind of looked similar, right? and that's why I knew he was the perfect guy. And but look, dude, Matt's awesome. He's been there this whole time, and he's contributed significantly to that band and everything, and it turned, he's been there longer than ever I was, right? So and he's a great dude, and we're great friends, and we talk like a couple times a week, and so, like I said, man, like I didn't leave Rob high and dry, right? That thing worked itself out, and, Matt got a career out of it, and, Rob didn't have to, he didn't have to stress over it.
That's gotta be a tough decision though, because between Rob Zombie and Ozzy Osbourne, I mean, they're both huge legends. Like, what made you decide Ozzy as opposed to just sticking with Rob? Because I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe, like, I think you've said this before, like you obviously knew that Ozzy at some point was going to have to retire, and Rob's younger. So like there could have been more of a future with Rob, or did you think about that, or you just wanted something different, or?
those are all very practical and logical thoughts. And I had to weigh all those out. Like, everything you're saying was definitely shit that I thought of. And I was like, but I feel like at the end of the day, it came down to, Ozzy being Ozzy, being sort of the godfather of heavy metal, and to play those songs, to play Black Sabbath songs, to be sort of in that conversation. It just felt like what my career trajectory needed, right? Like it started with Sabbath, and so it kind of needed to end there, right? Like, and no discredit to Rob's, legacy or, his catalog or anything, but it just kind of felt like I want to play Black Sabbath songs with that dude.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what pushed over the top. But
wow.
You're quite right. I mean, here we are potentially looking at, Ozzy's future retirement while Rob is still going strong.
Right. So what is Ozzy like off stage? Because I think a lot of people know him, from his music career and the show on MTV, The Osbournes, thinking his life's pretty crazy or chaotic, or at least it was. I mean, does his real life compare to that MTV show at all from what you saw, or?
No, I mean, I feel like that might have spun things in a wrong light. Maybe for all the right reasons. He doesn't. I don't think he wakes up every day feeling bad about it. But no, he's a great dude, man. Super funny, super generous, and he's a legend. And I can't say enough good things about him. And but yes, I think the TV show is a TV show with its purpose of entertaining the MTV generation, right?
Yeah, sure.
It was definitely spun in a way to where it appealed to a certain audience.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, that's not my reality.
No, for sure. Well, and also, and at this point now, Ozzy's a little older, but I mean, how does he channel that? He's got to still be the same personality. He's a wild man. He's a crazy guy. I mean, but he's not obviously sniffing ants off the ground with Motley Crue. So how does he channel that energy? Because I'm assuming he's not doing too many drugs or drinking at this point. What is he like? Does he play pranks on you guys, or is he?
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's certainly a practical joker, and but I mean, he just likes to have a good time, and I mean that energy is translates into doing shows, making records, and having grandchildren and spending time with them. And, I mean, just all things that a career in life maintenance requires, It's just like at some point, if you don't kill the drugs and alcohol, that shit will kill you,
Right.
And at what point do you realize, like, well, I think that's the end of, I think that's when I close that chapter of the book, because I would like to spend time with my kids and grandkids, right? With my wife and bandmates and fans, right? I want to continue to spend time with all those people, and you have to make a decision, right? Because you can't do both.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. So, and how is he, do you know anything about his health now? I know, is he officially, he's probably done touring, I'm assuming, right? I know he just had a new album come out, but.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not really sure, right? There's so much unknown in the world at present. I mean, we still have a tour on the books for fall. I don't know. No one said one way or the other if that's happening or not happening, but at present it's happening. And I think we'll just kind of see how the world returns to itself in whatever form that is.
Yeah.
And then, we'll see. There's really, look, I joke that I'm the bass player, so I am the second to last person to know anything. and then you would go, well, who's the first person to know anything? Or no, who's the last person to know everything? And you go, that's the drummer, right?
Okay.
The drummer's the last, bass player's second to last.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
Wow.
And stuff. So, but, so I don't know, but
okay.
we all remain hopeful that if we do tour, it's for all the right reasons. And if we don't, it's also for all the right reasons. Right.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's cool. But so you did do 2 albums with him, Black Rain and Scream, and you got to work with 2 of his guitarists, Gus G and Zakk Wylde. Zakk Wylde is easily one of my favorite guitarists. What's the differences between Zakk Wylde and Gus G?
Oh, I mean, both totally amazing players in their own regards, right? But they both have their own. They both interpret the guitar in different ways, and they both have their own sort of signature fingerprint as to how they approach it and to what that output is. When you get to that level, no one guy is the same, nor can that one guy be replicated. Because their origin story is different, right? Their amount of input is different and defined differently, and therefore their output is different.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose the maybe visible interesting thing is the age difference, and by the age difference, Zakk was significantly influenced by Randy Rhoads, given the age and the scope of when he first listened to Ozzy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Gus, being younger, he was more influenced from the Jakey Lee period, right? So I think that's a sort of a visible takeaway that I find interesting.
Yeah.
Just because to me, whenever Gus was kind of telling me about that when we were first hanging out and getting to know each other, I found that interesting because I'm more Zack's age, and I didn't understand that because I grew up on the Randy era, right?
Yeah.
Like that's whenever I first got turned on to it. And the Jake period, I respect totally, but I was kind of into different things at that point, and I don't know that I really understood it at the time. So I found that to be really interesting, to kind of the connective tissue between the two, of to where they're great in their own regards, and they're a great Ozzy guitar player in their own regards, but yet their point of impact were completely different.
Yeah.
Right. And I find that to be interesting.
Yeah. And Ozzy's so good at picking guitar players, especially like he's just, the list is amazing. But what was it like recording? I mean, you did record those 2 albums. What's it like recording with Ozzy? Like, does he give you a demo and just say, okay, create a bass line, or does somebody actually give you like a sheet music or a bass transcription to learn, or how does that work?
It kind of works a lot of different ways, but getting sort of the foundational elements in a demo form, and you being able to kind of take it home and do your homework with it and show up to the studio with some ideas. That's generally how it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and how come you didn't play on the latest album? Because you're still listed as you're still the bass player, but just not for the studio album. They had like Duff McKagan do it, I think. Is that because he wanted to write with him or something?
I don't really know, man. I mean, like, I think that, the interesting aspect, I think Rudy will tell you the same, is, being a hired gun guy, like when you get a call, you show up. And
yeah.
When you don't get a call, you do something else, and it's kind of really that simple. Like I don't put much thought into it because I don't feel like I'm entitled to anything. I'm appreciative of the time that I've been able to spend in the Ozzy Osbourne band, and that doesn't entitle me to play on every record do everything that he does, right? Like he's Ozzy Osbourne. He should be able to do whatever he wants to, whenever he wants to, because that's his creative vision.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get in the way of that.
No, that's a smart move. Yeah. I mean, just be grateful. I mean, that's worked out for you so far. You've had a lot of great opportunities. So one thing that you decided though, once you'd kind of joined Ozzy's band, you felt like you'd kind of climbed to the top of the mountain. I mean, where else can you go? So you decided, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to start a management company. You started this, what's it called? Is it Mercenary Management? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it was at the time. Yeah.
Okay. It was at the time. And then that was actually, did you decide that the day you joined Ozzy? Is that right?
Well, I mean, more or less. I mean, it was right around that time, you know, where it was kind of just go like, oh, okay, cool. Well, this whole hired gun heavy metal bass player thing has sort of reached its peak for real this time. And, but I love music. I'm, that much older. I'm going to be that much older when this thing wraps itself up. And I don't want to be 50 years old looking for a band.
Yeah.
Play in, as a career choice. So I decided, but I love music. I love being in music. And so I was like, I kind of sort of logically sort of started to, put together a company and find artists to work with and develop and get record deals, put on tour and, all that stuff. And so, that's kind of been my primary main gig. I mean, I didn't necessarily want to work for someone else, and I still wanted to have that entrepreneurial spirit that is with, the hired gun side and still in music, but I didn't necessarily think that I was going to play in a band for my whole life.
Sure.
I'm going to be in music my whole life.
Yeah.
There's no option there.
So you signed the Black Veil Brides. That was one of the first bands that you signed. Was that one that you found specifically, or did you have like a scout or somebody else go out and find that for you, or?
So, I was sharing office space with my buddy Ash Abelson at the time, and he was their booking agent, and he brought them to me because he's like, I think you guys would be a good fit. That they're kind of hot and they're going to need some management. And so he connected those dots, for us together. But I saw it right away and I got it. And I was like, yeah, it's got me written all over it.
What other bands that you've signed that you're kind of highlights, or are there new ones that are coming out that you want to talk about?
Nothing. I mean, I've kind of, had sort of my crew for a while now. And, the industry is in an interesting place right now. So things are on hold in a lot of situations. We don't know when live shows are going to come back.
Yeah.
We don't know when a good time to put out a record is. Sort of really don't know the temperature of the fan. That things are, things have sort of taken priority in people's lives right now. And, so it's a little undetermined as to what the best course of action is, moving forward, or when to move forward and how to move forward. So, I think we've just kind of taken a step back and just taking it day by day and working on music and making records to be released at a point to where it's the right time to release it, and continuing to have conversations with the venues and promoters and booking agents, and keeping our eye on that when we feel like that's going to reopen. And it's an interesting time for the business for sure in a lot of aspects. And so we're just doing the best that we can. We're just weathering the storm and hoping for the best when it comes back around.
Yeah. So do you guys how does that work with this whole thing? I mean, do you guys have to get a loan for your business, or can you collect unemployment, or is there anything, how does that work?
It's different for everybody, really.
Okay.
There's things that you can do. I mean, it's like some of it comes down to the individual. There's really been a lot of options. There's been a lot of people that have put together, good, fundraisers and platforms, and, everybody kind of trying to look out for one another and stuff. But yeah, there's no easy answer.
Do you get
all over the place?
Do you still make a lot of royalties off the albums you did with Ozzy and Rob Zombie, or is that kind of?
No, I mean, I get the occasional royalty from time to time, but you got to figure, like, I didn't write anything on those records, right?
Yeah.
So my contribution was very solely performance based, and so it's by design, I'm not deserving of anything of substantial nature anyway. So,
So it's much better if concerts.
Those albums and those songs still do earn revenue.
Yeah,
they still earn royalties to this day. So, like, a little bit trickles my way.
A little bit, yeah. But so your main source would be the gigs, and since we can't do that, I mean, you got to be like frustrated.
It is frustrating, yes, to say the least.
Can you?
And I think.
Are there any projects that you're working on? Like, are people, you're writing music, or people sending you stuff to play bass on, like other projects that I know you're in, like you've done like the Zakk Sabbath. I mean, that's probably not recording, as much more like playing live. You were in a band, the Death Riders. It was kind of a one-off. Is there anything, something like similar to that you're working on now?
No, I mean, as a musician, I don't do much of anything, to be honest. Like, I don't even think there's a bass in my house.
Really?
So yeah, I mean, it's just not, I mean, when Ozzy calls, we shake off the bass and go on tour, and, then show up to rehearsal and know the set and, all that. And there's a reason, but like, I'm not over here kind of honing my craft. Like, I've got the responsibility to my clients to make sure they're taken care of. And, when it comes to, Ozzy songs, like, I know how Crazy Train goes.
Yeah.
At no point am I going to play that song any better than I play it already.
Right. So your main focus right now is still more the management. And you said that,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. You said you really don't have a lot of other interests besides music, except marketing and branding, which goes along with the management. So, you said you've read a lot of books about marketing and branding, and like maybe like looking outside of the box. Did you learn? You must have learned stuff from Ozzy and Rob Zombie on that stuff too, right?
No, absolutely. I think a lot of that is by observation, yeah. But I'm very much enthralled with branding and marketing and advertising, and all things that kind of go along with selling band products, tickets and T-shirts and records and, everything that's kind of associated with that. So, I'm very much immersed into those tactics and those strategies, just to kind of keep myself aware, because, the digital landscape is forever changing and rapidly forever changing. So you got to kind of keep up on, what's happening, because, a way that you released a record 2 years ago is different than the way you're going to release a record 2 years from now. And so, that's just the way it is.
What do you think about, some musicians and some comedians too, I'm seeing, are doing these like, Zoom kind of meetings, like live internet shows. Are you a fan of those? Do you feel like it takes away from the genuineness of the actual like art?
Well, what's good about what this time period has done is it's got us to explore a little deeper into the digital platforms that we're already on anyway, but to go a little bit deeper into how we can engage with the fans and how we can provide access to the fans, and so I hope those trends continue, right? I hope live streams continue. I hope we can reach more fans in more places that maybe we don't get a chance to go play live to. I hope that, chats and Zooms and Zoom meetings and things of that nature, I hope that this is something that continues, because I think that it's productive, and to be able to grow a network or grow a fan base, or, in terms of communication and engagement, we've learned a whole new depth to the tools that are at our disposal. And I hope those things continue.
Awesome. Well, besides the music, I know one thing that you are interested in is cats. So tell me about your work with how many cats do you have, by the way?
I have two, but I get that question a lot because people must think that I have like 20. But yes, I have two.
And what you do, you work with the charity that works with cats?
Yeah. So, I've got a lot of, over the years, I'm friends with a lot of very influential people in the cat community. Whether it's, Jackson Galaxy or Hannah Shaw that, kind of really are more, on the mainstream front, and whether it be, TV or publishing. And then, behind the scenes, like I know a lot of people that have built, 501c3s and whether it's a rescue or a cat cafe and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm sort of very immersed in that, cat subculture. Once you look under the hood, we all tend to start to get united in some way. But yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of charities and cat cafes, and whether it's just supporting or people have questions, and the advocacy, pet ownership and things of that nature. I mean, it's kind of all over the board, but I suppose the primary one that I work with is Kitten Rescue in Los Angeles, and I do a 5K run for them every year when we raise a bunch of money. This year I raised the most money I've ever raised for them. I've got the advocacy award of the year. And,
wow.
There's a gala that they do every year. And the year that I was, given that award, we raised the most money that the gala has raised, upwards of $250,000. And stuff. So yeah, man, we're doing some great things, but, so yeah, it's just kind of, it's just sort of one of my interests, but, because of social media and the connectivity that brings us, I've been able to sort of reach a very wide spectrum, worldwide, of people that are doing great things in that community.
That's awesome. Yeah. Cause I know there's a lot of cats that need homes that, I worked over here. They have the homeless cats, and these people, they spay the cats that they live out in the streets. And then you go through and you feed all these cats that live out in the wild, which is weird here, because in Arizona it's like really hot. But I guess there's a lot of them that do that. It's all over the valley here. So I'm sure they have a similar thing in LA.
Oh yeah, no, of course. It's, I mean, cat people that feed cat colonies, people that TNR, which is trap and neuter and return, which is, what those people that's what their focus is TNR. What they're trying to avoid is, because a cat can turn around kittens pretty quickly. And so they're trying to get a handle on the amount of kittens that are born every year. And, because once they're feral, it's kind of, they just live on the street.
Yeah.
And so we're, trying to kind of shut that down as much as we can to kind of keep a handle on it.
Awesome.
So, and there's a lot of people I know that do that, and I respect them wholeheartedly.
Oh yeah, I respect you for doing that. It's very cool. I'm definitely a cat advocate. So, well, I appreciate you so much for doing this interview with me. I think people need to reach out, follow you you're on Instagram. Do you have a Facebook page or Twitter or any of that stuff? Or I know you're mostly Instagram, right?
Mostly Instagram, but everything is the same, Blasko1313. So I'm everywhere, but like in terms of actively, it would be 99% Instagram.
Okay, and they can keep up with all your latest projects. Do you think that you'll be doing any? I mean, I guess if somebody calls you, you'd probably do it if there was another hired gun opportunity, right, to play bass for someone else.
Hey man, if AC/DC calls, I'm down.
What about Metallica?
I don't know that that's a good fit for me, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Obviously I wouldn't say no, but I'm saying that I don't know that, I don't think I'm a good fit there at this point.
What about
totally,
what about Megadeth? Or they're probably never going to get rid of their bass player. It's always been the same guy.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good fit for me either, to be totally honest.
Is there other
Like, I think,
bands? Oh, sorry, go on.
yeah, like in terms of playing music, like I'm more of that classic, like that classic metal, like Judas Priest, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, AC/DC, Ozzy, Sabbath. Like in terms of playing music, like that's my jam.
Mm-hmm. That's great stuff. Well, very cool. You've had an amazing career so far, so I look forward to seeing what else you do. Is there other bands though that that you're a fan of that people should check out? Maybe either on your label or that are not.
Well,
on your label?
I think the easiest thing to do is, a lot of people, they're like, man, there's no good music out there. It's all a bunch of like pop and rap and blah blah blah, and then like nothing's come out good since '96, and and so like I tend to disagree. Mm-hmm. And anyone that's interested in hearing a bunch of cool new music, I have a Spotify playlist that I update weekly, semi-weekly, of stuff that I find that is a current band with a current record that has put out an album or a song or an EP this year. And I've been doing a yearly playlist for the last, 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's linked from my Instagram. And if you want to go on Spotify and type in Volume Forever, those are all my playlists. And, but yeah, I've got a current one going now, and there's a shit ton of cool stuff on there. So I don't want to hear the excuse that there's nothing cool coming out anymore, because it's just not true.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of good new bands. So, well, thank you so much for doing my show. Is there anything else you want to promote?
That's it, man. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you want to share this on social media with your fans, they can listen. I'll try to share it as much as I can as well. So thanks for coming on.
Cool.
All right.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.
So there you go. Rob Blasko Nicholson, bass player from Rob Zombie's band, bass player for Ozzy's band. What a career that guy's had. Done amazing things with his management company and everything. Make sure to follow him on Instagram, Blasko1313, or Twitter or Facebook if you don't have Instagram. You can follow me on all the social medias as well. If you like this episode, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more episodes. I got some great guests lined up. And if you want to tell me how great you thought this up, or you can tell me how bad it was, you can write me a review or reach out to me on social media. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode, how I can improve it, what you liked, what you didn't like. Until then, have a great day or night.